Harish,
Good evening, Sam.
you're the first external speaker we have for our talk show since Jam with Sam. We did the last one in March 2020. So you're
Okay.
the first external speaker on Jam with Sam format.
Okay.
You should be proud of it.
I hope it goes well.
Okay, it'll go well. Okay, a bit about your life. Where did you grow up? Which school, college you went to? And the same thing, what is one lesson you learned from there?
Okay. So it'll be interesting after what Neeraj said in his interview. So, how many of you heard of a place called Ulhasnagar? Oh, cool. So, my parents are from Kerala. So, they moved to Mumbai maybe in 1960s. I was not around at that point to help them decide on that move. I was born and brought up in Ulhasnagar because my dad decided to settle there. So, I was in a school there called Jaslok High School. I totally endorse Neeraj's view that the school wouldn't obviously matter a lot. At least I can say that for myself. If I'm sitting here, it's a prestigious forum. So, Jaslok High School is not known to a lot of them. In fact, some of us also like to forget about it after a point. It has deteriorated over a period of time, and I've been there recently also. College also was in Ulhasnagar. So, actually, I did decently well in 10th standard. When I say decently well, in those standards. Today, I think 99.9 is also not very good. So, I was decent. So, I thought I'll probably change the environment and go into Mulund College of Commerce, which was a very prestigious college at that point. I don't know what is the current status. But my dad said that, no, you cannot go all this way and local trains are very dangerous and all that. So, I was a protected kid. I was not allowed to go outside the 3-kilometer radius which I was living in. So I decided to join a very local college called R.K. Talreja. So I've spent a lot of time among Sindhis and I know the language, I understand their mindset, and I think the business kida came from there at some level because I'm a South Indian. So I'm not supposed to be doing a lot of things which I'm doing now. So yeah, everything in Ulhasnagar, very humble, very modest background.
Great. So your family, parents, siblings, something about that?
So my dad is 83 now. He is mostly in bed, a very cute little guy. His memory has been a little messed up at the age of 83. So he thinks I am his father now. So he will come one fine day into my room and said, I will not go to school today. So initially it was a little weird that, like, why is he telling me that? But I realized that it is old age. And I think in old age, life comes a full circle and you go back to being a kid. So I said, okay, don't go to school. So he kind of gives his big smile and goes back and sleeps. We used to do that, I think, at when we were kids. So my dad is 83, mom is 78. They're home mostly, especially after COVID. So obviously, old age people don't go out. I have an elder brother, about 10 years elder to me. He's also at home. He's a dependent in the sense that he has certain psychological, mental issues. So 3 of them at home, and we have a couple of caretakers for them. I'm single otherwise.
Okay, great. So tell us briefly about your journey before scale up.
Oh, okay. So as I said, schooling, college was pretty basic. However, I made it a point that I have to come out of that environment. Otherwise, it's very difficult to try and do something. My dad has always been in service, very hardworking, but that hard work doesn't necessarily take you anywhere if you are working for someone who doesn't necessarily give you ESOPs and all that. So I decided to do something, and there was always a pressure that I need to do something fast. So I was looking for a cost-effective course, and chartered accountancy was one of those days, a course where you could probably do everything in like a lakh or so. So I decided to do that along with college. So college life was literally nothing much because you're doing CA. So I did CA, cleared it, started working in the industry in the financial markets background. So I was doing research trading. So I worked for about 4 years apart from CA internship. That 4 years was just to see the corporate world and how it is. And then I eventually quit in 2008. From 2008 onwards, it's been like more than 14 years now. I've done multiple things at multiple levels. Always been an entrepreneur, done multiple businesses. Neeraj was saying that his family said that we don't do the corporate shit. My mom still is unhappy that I quit my job. She keeps telling me that if you would have worked, you would have been vice president in Kotak Mahindra Bank and all that. And I'm obviously telling her that I'm the founder and CEO of my company. And he's like, how does it count? It's your company. So South Indians, right? So we have this designation obsession as such. So yeah, it's been a wonderful journey of 14 years. Scale Up is one of the entities. There are a lot of other things I have tried and failed in.
Out of these companies you work for, which is one you really enjoyed? And why did you quit your job?
So I've worked in 3 organizations, and the last one was the best in terms of WorkX. I was working for a bank called ING Vysya, which eventually got taken over by Kotak Mahindra Bank. So I was working there in treasury front office, in research and trading. Very fascinating job. A lot of exciting stuff used to happen. The only side effect of that was they expected, obviously, me to work every day. And Ulhasnagar is where I stay. Worli is where the office was. I was the economist for India, which means you have a morning call at 8 a.m. with the entire sales and trading team. I'm supposed to give them gyan about what's happening in the markets. So it kind of became too much to do, where I'm traveling every day at 6 in the morning and leave office at 8, and commute is a pain in Mumbai, right? So, and then rainy season, so that's worse. So it was more of laziness that prompted me to quit my corporate job. I did not want to keep working day in and day out as such. The trigger, so I think I was always lazy right from the day I was born. But sometimes you keep doing certain things till a certain time where you get an external trigger. And for me, the trigger was a change in boss. So my boss changed, and a lot of times boss is the reason why you stay in a job, and boss is the reason why you leave from a job. So this new boss was more a sales background boss, not a trading background boss. And unfortunately, what happened was the research I was doing was then made to be very sales oriented. So, for example, it's very normal. I don't know how much of you would understand how financial banks, etc. work. So they have a sales team who's talking to corporates. They will take the research person along for meetings so that there is some credibility being built, because they see sales as sales. They're like, "ये तो कुछ बेचने आया है." So they will take me along and say, "ये आपको ज्ञान देगा," which is all fine, which is part of my job. But then eventually it happened, especially in Delhi. Nothing against the city, I love it, but the salesperson will take me. We are about to enter into the meeting, and they'll say, यहाँ पे आपको ये convince करना है कि rupee will appreciate against dollar. So I'm like, okay, fair enough. My view is also that, so it's easy. हो गया meeting. Next meeting में, before you enter, the same person will say, यहाँ पे आपको convince करना है rupee will depreciate against the dollar. So the reason is they've sold certain financial products which gets married to that thought. So it cannot work like they've sold a product and then somebody from the same organization comes and gives you a different view. So that is when I kind of started realizing that sales is not sales in many financial products. There's a lot of mis-selling that happens. Kind of starts eating into your ethics and your self-respect. So this is the corporate reason I give, but I was lazy eventually. So all this kind of merged and I quit one fine day on my birthday in 2008.
Great. So tell us about Scale Up. Scale Up was one of the first things you started?
No, Scale Up was much later in my journey. The first thing I started is a company called Edge Zone Capital. It was not even a company, it was just a name I convinced myself with. I got into corporate trainings. That was the easiest thing to do. So I became a freelance trainer and I started training on financial markets. I quit at a point where I was 25. So a lot of people ask me, wasn't it tough to quit corporate life where you're getting salary? I think it's easier if you're young and you take that plunge, because if you try to do that much later, there is family pressure, there is EMI, there is this and that. I had nothing. So I was like 25. My salary at that point, I think, was around 50K. So the opportunity loss was not very high. And training was a space where if you're good, you would make about 15K at that point a day. So it was for me like 3 days of work to make up for that 50K. 28 days I can do whatever I want. So it was a very interesting thing to do. So I did that for about 3-4 years, enjoyed it. The only problem with corporate training as a profession is it is not scalable. Like if you're a trainer, you only have limited number of days you can do it for. So I was looking at something to scale, and coincidentally I met Somil, and he was introduced to me by a very good well-wisher of us. Scale Up was a firm that we started, I think, about 2016 or 2017. And the name of the firm is also Scale Up because I wanted to scale up anyways. And it's been a wonderful journey of Scale Up since then.
So what do you do in Scale Up exactly?
Scale Up, not to sound too technical, is into proprietary trading. So what we decided essentially was there is a lot of products out there where I can invest. So there is mutual funds, there is X, there is Y. But if we have the skill set, me and Somil, we both are chartered accountants, we have been in the financial markets. We thought, why not use the same skill set that we have to manage our own money? So we pulled in our money. We started having a fund, a proprietary fund as we call it. and we started managing that for ourselves. So the idea was very simple. We have skills, we have knowledge, we have seen the markets. Why outsource it? Why not manage it ourselves? And that was the essential logic of doing derivatives trading. We do a lot of interesting stuff in that. We have created a lot of strategies. We are both passionate about it, and we continue to do it as we speak. Even today, we did some trades and came for this event. So Scale Up is largely into proprietary trading, where we manage a lot of money. We do have clients in that as well. If you look at the financial investor space, we realized it very early that you'll typically find two categories of investors. There is a type of investors who like to be on control of everything that they do. So they want to see their numbers, they want to do their own analysis and all that. And then there is a category who is willing to outsource the entire thing. They're like, I don't know about all this research and stocks in this thing. You are the expert. Tu mujhe bata kitna milega. As simple as that. In one word, you tell me what returns you will get. So we designed a structure where we'll say, okay, you park the money with us, you will get this particular rate of return, which is more than double what you will get from a bank fixed deposit or a risk-free rate of return. So that clicked with a lot of investors, and that is why over a period of time, again, Scale Up has been able to scale up, and we have reached wherever we are now in terms of managing a lot of money.
How much money are you managing right now? Is there a secret?
It's not a secret, but it's not about money. So in the world of proprietary trading, we talk in terms of what is called as limits.
Okay.
So you are in little excess of 500 crores at this point.
Okay, that's a lot of money. Okay, great. So you started HOA, House of Alpha. So what does House of Alpha mean? And it's also, I heard, is a wealth planner. So how you different? There are a lot of wealth planners around. Everybody who's done, I think, some financial course calls themselves a wealth planner.
Yeah.
So how you different, and what are the kind of clientele you're looking at?
So again, if you understood my journey, I came from this industry of mis-selling. I was a part of it. I have sold products that I knew deep down is not a product good for the client. I've done that as a corporate employee for a couple of years in research, but obviously I was not selling. Kind of realized that this is happening across industry. Consciously or subconsciously, a lot of times it is happening because the advisor or the mutual fund agent or the distributor, whatever term you use, or the traditional LIC insurance advisors, a lot of times end up mis-selling without even knowing they're mis-selling. See, there is a fraud and then there is a lack of knowledge. There are two aspects. Sometimes even the seller doesn't know what they're selling. They also don't know what goes into the product. They also don't know what is the risk angle. So we see a lot of mis-selling happening. As I told you, there are two types of investors. So there is one category who's happy with Scale Up. So they're very clean. They're giving us the money. They're saying, give us this percentage and we're happy. No questions asked. But then there is a bunch of investors who also want to keep a control over their money. Invariably, if I could generalize, and it may not apply obviously to 100% cases, most of the business community investors like to just give the money and say, give me what, a number, and that's about it. Most of the corporate professionals, especially who are at mid-management and senior management, they have a lot of time and interest to know about what's happening with their portfolio. They are asking a lot of questions about why are you recommending this, why are you recommending that. So we wanted to be in the advisory space, but as you rightly said, there's a lot of advisors out there. How House of Alpha is different is in three respects, I would say. House of Alpha is the wealth management firm we have. One is we are fee-only advisors, which means that we are not selling a single product on which we are earning commissions. So it's a very simple principle we have, that we will not sell commission products. I'm not saying everybody who sells commission products is not doing a great job, but there is a perceived, there is a perception that there is something known as a conflict of interest that is happening perhaps. Imagine you go to a doctor, you take his advice, and the doctor says, don't pay me. Like, please don't pay me. The advice is free. And you're like, why is the doctor who's so qualified, who has so much experience, giving me free advice? And then he says, you know what? The pharma companies, the medicines that I recommend you, they'll pay me. Now, imagine as a patient, would you want to trust this advice? Maybe the doctor is still doing the exact best thing that he would have done if the fees is charged, but this is called perceived conflict of interest. So as a patient, I'll walk out and say, paisa nahi le rahe, matlab, doctor mein itna mehnat kiya, experience hai. Is that doctor, and it's a perception, it may not be true, that is the doctor selling something jisme usko zyada commission mil raha hai in the products, in the medicines, too dangerous. So we wanted to be away from this commission business. We said clients has to pay us. It's not a big number of clients who wants to pay. We have to educate them there also that you're anyways paying. It's not like you're not paying. Nobody's giving you free service. We charge fees from the clients and advise them on anything. Second is we offer a lot of products that are traditionally not offered otherwise. So for example, term insurance, very basic product that a lot of insurance agents unfortunately don't sell. Direct funds in mutual funds, index funds, something like very low cost that typically a distributor wouldn't because the commission income is very low on that. So these are products that is good for you. So we don't anyways earn commission. So we will recommend the best is what our philosophy is. The third is just the same logic as we have in scale up. We want to be on the manufacturing side. So there is products in the market which we will distribute, but we want to manufacture our own products. So in House of Alpha, we have created few unique investment strategies and products that otherwise is not available is the idea. So that's how we are positioning House of Alpha as to be different. Time will say it's a 1 year old concept. 4 of us have come together.
Great. So an advice you'd like to give someone regarding wealth creation?
Wealth creation, okay. It may not necessarily go well with everyone, but I always say, and you can see this with people around you, for most people, the source of wealth is a core business that he or she is running. I have not seen somebody who has made a lot of money juggling between 10 things. Very, very difficult. I'm seeing that happening a lot in the last few years, especially during COVID, where everybody has started trading. Everybody has started investing. They think financial markets, so sabka hai boss. I mean, there are ads also which says that. Hai sabka, but do you have the skill set to earn money out of that? So what I always tell everybody, including a 21-year-old kid who's starting their career is, if your field is software, for example, whatever time you get, please upgrade your knowledge in that space. Please learn more about softwares. Please learn more about your industry. Do something better. Earn your main primary source of wealth from that. So you keep working hard. If you're running a steel business, please focus on running the steel business and maybe expand there and do a lot of things there. If you're running a travel business, it would be little foolish for someone who has a potential to grow a travel business to look at steel business. Focus on whatever is your core area of wealth and just do that. A lot of people have come into financial markets in the last few years. People like to trade, people like to invest, and then they say, it's a gambling. I mean, of course, if you do it as a 1 hour a day kind of a thing, it will look like gambling. And we love gambling in India. I mean, I think Mahabharata ke time pe bhi hua tha na? They kept wife as a collateral and there was a gambling that was done at that point. Arranged marriages happen in India. It's a very interesting example of gambling as well. Sorry? The biggest gamble. Okay, has it turned out like that in your life? So, don't gamble. Don't go into financial markets to make money when it is not your core. Stick to your core, whatever it is, keep upgrading that, create wealth from that, and use financial markets to maybe diversify and outsource that aspect. If I want to do traveling, I'll probably go to Neeraj and take his advice. I'm hoping that when he wants to invest, he does the other way. So that is how, essentially, I would say, focus on your core skill and make money out of that.
Great. I think a lot of people are learning the lesson with the current market going down.
So it's like when markets are going up, everybody has a stock portfolio. When markets are going down, they will say, "Maine to koi stock mein invest hi nahi kiya." It's a very conversational thing rather than anything else. So if you ask anybody today about their portfolio, yeah, main stock, crypto, kabhi touch hi nahi kiya.
Kabhi touch nahi.
But when crypto was doing well, they are like, "Main abhi ghar bech ke soch raha hu, crypto mein dal do." So it's very conversational. And if you see any large investor or trader, big names, Junjunwala, George Soros, Warren Buffett, global traders, global investors who made a lot of money, they do it full time. They don't have a steel business in one side, a pharma business in the other, and do 1 hour of trading and investing. They do it full time. So when you say market से पैसा बनता है, बिल्कुल बनता है, but full time कीजिए. अगर आपको आना है full time, then you come, you leave everything else. It's a big gamble, right? But if you are doing something else, I would suggest that's your core source of wealth. I think you should focus on that is what I would suggest.
Great. So now coming to the third hat he wears. You're also principal partner in India Accelerator. So tell us about what is India Accelerator and what do you do there?
India Accelerator is a company which was formed in 2017, not by me, but by different people in Gurgaon. They're initially based in Gurgaon, but now they're expanding in India and overseas. It is basically an accelerator. So I'm not sure how many of you know about that term. They're creating an entire ecosystem for startups. Essentially, that's the logic. It's a concept which they're lifting from something called Y Combinator, which is YC in US. What accelerators do is they identify good founders, they identify good startups at very early stage, not late stage, and then they groom the founders and make sure that the startup does well. So whatever the startup needs, they provide that. So there is co-working space in their offering, they will have mentors, they will have investors, they have an angel network where anybody can come and invest. So the entire business of India Accelerator is, if you are a good founder with a good startup idea, we will ensure that it reaches the stage where it wants to through whatever help you want. So essentially, they become growth partners for the startups. I started investing in startups about 4 years back. I believe in the equity story, right? I mean, one of the biggest way in which you can generate wealth is equity. There is no two ways about it. Equity can be your own business, as I said earlier. Your own business is equity, right? That's the biggest business you're running. It could be other businesses also. So if I have, let's say, Mukesh Bhai Ambani working very hard every day, even when he's not working, he's not keeping well, to go to Reliance and work hard to expand Reliance, why can't I just become a shareholder and enjoy that wealth journey? So I've been investing in equity right since the day I earned my stipend. Startup is again the same asset class, right? Because there also you're investing in businesses, but early stage. So you're trying to pick up an Infosys on day one if you could get an opportunity, but the failure rate is very high. So I'm creating a portfolio of startups. It's about 43 now as we speak. Some of the startups are started by my people like batchmates and friends. Some of them are unknown founders. But the idea is, if there are good ideas out there, try and back them up. And a lot of opportunities are out there. Because I personally believe startups are solving a lot of problems out there, which big businesses are not. So young kids, very innovative, risk-taking, a lot of good things they're doing. If they're working hard, why not become a part of their growth journey? And that's where IA and my startup ecosystem investments, etc. happens. I'm helping IA in whatever ways I can.
Super. So how does your day go? You have so many hats. He entered, he put a different hat on. How do you time management? Because that's one of the greatest skills a lot of us need when you're running, multiple businesses. You still come from Ulhasnagar now?
No.
Okay.
I moved to Mulund.
Okay.
Great. Our office is in Mulund, so we cut down the commute time first. So that frees up 3-4 hours in Mumbai. So that is good. Time management is still, I'm not perfect at the art. I don't know how to do it. I'm still trying, learning every day. But one thing which I've done is, there are certain types of my activity which will need market hours. So during market hours, I'm doing only that. Rest of the time, post 3:30 when the markets have closed, there are a lot of activities which I can do. So the way I do it is I compartmentalize hours for some of these tasks. So I know like 6 hours a week, I have IA tasks. So whatever I can do in that, I'll do. Because thankfully, I've reached a point where none of these jobs are operational, right? It's not like you have to do this today itself. It's more networking, it's more connects, it's more mentoring. So few hours for IA, few hours for corporate trainings, which I still continue to do. Okay. And most of my time goes into scale up and House of Alpha. So it's not that big a challenge. I'm still lazy. I still do a lot of things which I should not.
Right. So B School. So there are a lot of businesses which are there, second family run businesses, and a lot of them join B schools. How important do you think is for a family managed business to run B school? It's not sponsored by anybody, by the way. How important do you think is B school business for a family which is scaling up?
I don't think a traditional B school will help a lot. I have taken a lot of sessions for a family managed business program as well, run by SP Jain. So I know how their course is designed and I know what kind of intricacies they have provided. So there are unique specific courses now available of multiple B schools which are designed for family managed businesses, because their challenges as a second generation, third generation entrepreneur is very different from someone who's going to start a business from scratch. It's very different. Also very complex. If you are a second generation, third generation entrepreneur, it's a very difficult place to be in. I mean, a lot of people don't appreciate that, I think. They think, "Arey, bana banaya business mil gaya." It's not easy. It's not easy to break some thought process, do a lot of paradigm shift. You have a senior figure like your father or grandfather or चाचा जिनके साथ आप ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं बोल रहे हो, but आपको convince करना है that आपका strategy खराब है या ये product भी करना है. It's not at all easy. So in a B school, they'll teach you stuff which will get you a job. In a family managed business kind of a course which is well designed, they're trying to help you to take over a running business without much of conflict creation. It's a very important thing because India runs on family managed businesses. I mean, let's not have any two ways about it. We have Infosys, we have etc. But there is still Reliance at the top. There is still Adani. There is still a lot of family managed business. So there's a lot of conflicts that happen. How do you avoid that conflicts? How do you ensure that you kind of, because young generation wants to do things yesterday. Older generation has seen difficult times. So they want to take it slow. Lot of practical things is being taught in good courses. So those courses I would recommend. A traditional MBA may not be good for someone who's going to take over a family business, I think.
Great. Thanks. So you just launched a podcast. Tell us about a podcast you launched.
So this is a podcast by House of Alpha, all thanks to our founder, partner, Bhuvana Sriram. And obviously, you have helped in creating the entire thing. We wanted to talk about things which generally financial advisors don't talk about. So that's the basic logic of that podcast. Most financial advisors talk about returns and mutual funds and market mein kya karna hai. We are talking about problems that are more common and people don't talk about it. So for example, the first podcast, in the second episode that we shot in the podcast is how do you manage the higher education cost of your children? Most of the parents now are sending their children to higher education outside India. Neeraj also spoke about that. Now it's a very interesting financial problem also. Yes, there is kid going and educational kind of looking at the good colleges, but there is a financial angle. There is dollar rupee angle. There is a rupee depreciation that happens. So how do you take care of that? It's not just about yahan pe invest kar do itna milega. It's about how do you actually build that 5-6 year journey when the kid is maybe in 10th grade and they've already made up their mind that in 4 years they want to leave. Kaise wo next 7 years navigate karna hai is also a very interesting thing which many parents are going through now. So we want to talk about things which is not about returns and products. It's little different about how other things can be. So we are doing a podcast on what do you do if you get sudden money. Suddenly 10 crore aa gaya. You won a lottery. Somebody in your family or made you a part of your will. Somebody unfortunately had a death and aapko insurance ka paisa mila. Suddenly when you get money, what do you do? Because I'm sure you know that a lot of research has happened that sudden money never lasts. अपना KBC का कोई बंदा था ना सुशील कुमार, he got money and then in I think couple of years he just lost it. So it's a very tricky thing that you run a bank balance which is usually 50,000, 1 lakh and then you see 10 crores in that. तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा खुजली होता है कि यार इसको spend कर देते हैं. Then they call Neeraj and say चलो world tour which is good for you but they don't plan कि boss ये world tour आप afford कर सकते हो कि नहीं कर सकते हो. You are 38, आपको life जीना है. So that planning nobody does. So we want to focus on these little things in that podcast. Hopefully it does well.
Super. Your hobbies?
I don't have a lot. I watch a lot of movies. I sleep a lot. And I travel a lot. These are the only things I do. I don't do bird watching. I don't even understand different types of bird that comes to my house also. Travel, yes. I cannot be without traveling. The only thing which I do is all my travel is a mix of work and pleasure. So everywhere I go, there will be something I'll find to meet and do something for work because as you said there are so many hats मैं कुछ भी फेंक सकता हूँ उनके सामने आप जो बोलो मेरे पास टॉपिक है. So travel is a very integral part of it and reading and movies. I'm a huge movie buff. So when you said you're doing something in IMDb, amazing. It needs a lot of work and sleeping. Whenever I get time, I sleep.
Okay. So last question is you take a lot of care of animals. So tell us about that.
I can go on for long. Animals are, I trust them more than human beings. They are the most beautiful things out there. They will not missile anything to me, I'm sure about that. Been a part of animal ecosystem right from childhood, but then again my family was, they were not very keen to have a pet at house. It was always a choice ki tu ya pet rahega. More financial to be honest, because as I said, humble background and this is an expensive hobby कि घर पे कुत्ता है. So whenever I talk about my childhood, मेरे को 3 Idiots का सीन याद आता है. वो black and white हो जाएगा पूरा, फिर वो म्यूजिक आएगा बीच में. So childhood days was all about constraints and इतने पैसे में क्या करना है. So pet was not an option, but of course there are strays out and you all do that. But then the moment I realized that I can do something for them, I set up an NGO. So we have an NGO in Thane. A lot of good like-minded people have come together and we do a lot of good things. Now we have about 62 animals in that shelter now, all rescued. We treat them if required and we put them back into whatever place they came from. And if they're small, we put them up for adoption. It's called Citizen for Animal Protection Foundation. So a lot of my energy and mind space and money goes into that as well. Because as I said, I generally judge a society by how they treat their animals, to be honest. So India, I think, has a long way to go in that. So hopefully we will improve. Younger generation are better in that also.
Yes.
They are very, very good to animals as compared to others, because I think, movie is Shaurya. I don't know if you've seen Shaurya. K.K. Menon says this thing to Rahul Bose कि तुमको ये बड़ा बड़ा चीज़ बोलने का सहूलियत मिलता है because we do something in the army protection. Same way, I think the kids have a lot of other things sorted, born to better families maybe. So they're like, let's think of them also. Charity begins at home, right? So when you're not doing well, you'll not think of a dog. You'll think about yourself. But now the younger generation, I think, is more sensitive. They have more civic empathy also. More power to them.
Super. Thank you, Harish. It was fun jamming with you today.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.